I just wanted to quickly touch on the stage one of the low to mid-rise housing policy update. If there was already an existing easement on the land for drainage, for example, then that might impact the ability to seek an approval.
Michael Nazeri, welcome.
Hi, Julian. Thanks for having me.
So Michael's from Design, Develop, Manage, and he's going to give us an insight into the changes of the New South Wales government to the low and mid-rise building legislation and code. But Michael, before we get into that, could you just give us a little bit of background on you personally and also your business?
Yes, sure. So I'm Michael Nazeri. I'm the Director of Design Development. I'm a registered architect and design practitioner of the business. I've got over 15 years experience in architectural design, project management, and planning approvals. I have experience in projects across all sectors, and I'm currently focused on mid to high-end boutique projects. And to give you some examples of those would be duplexes, triplexes, townhouses, apartments, and subdivisions, which are all subject of this new low to mid-rise housing policy change. In addition to exceptional designs at DDM, we try to add the most value in navigating the complexities of the industry, cutting through red tape in order to turn our clients' visions into reality. And I just thought it'd be great to go through some of the key policy changes today for all of the search party property clients so that they can see where they can maximize on their proposals.
No, thanks for that background. No, it certainly sounds like you definitely have that, what I call X factor. So that's what we want to talk about today. 'Cause a lot of our clients, we have the mum and dad property investors who are looking for, good, sustainable, conventional property investing over a long-term period. But then we have customers a little bit more bigger budgets, high risk tolerance, and probably just want to be a bit more active in their investment. And so a lot of times we're looking for that X factor deal. So subdivisions, granny flats, we do renovations, we do things like that. But we haven't done a lot in New South Wales, Michael, and a lot of it's due to these restrictions, as we say. But as of last Friday, when you sent me through that document, I thought this is some great news for us to be able to attract and help our customers in New South Wales as well. So yeah, it'd be good to go through. I mean, I know it's a 14 or 15-page document. Now, I don't have the patience to read all that. I've skimmed it. So it'd be great if you could do a layman version of the key changes. And maybe after we do that, I'll break it down and talk about how we can then transfer that into benefits for clients and some investment strategies as well.
Yeah, of course. So before we go into the changes that were introduced on 28th of February last Friday, I just wanted to quickly touch on the stage one of the low to mid-rise housing policy update, which came into effect on the 1st of July 2024 last year. One of the key outcomes for that change was the introduction of permissibility for a dual occupancy in R2 zoned land across the entire state. So that benefited areas like Liverpool City Council, Inner West Council, Mossman, Strathfield, Warringah, Hawkesbury, Hornsby and Ku-ring-gai councils.
Right.
Because prior to that change, the council would not accept any type of dual occupancy either as a DA or a CDC in those areas, whereas now it's enforced by legislation that they can't refuse a dual occupancy so long as you meet all other minimum land requirements and planning and design controls.
Yeah, wow, it's a big change, right? That now, especially in these areas, one of the areas I know quite well, Hornsby Council, for example, where we have the ability to buy bigger blocks of land. And those parcels then allow us to do, like you said, subdivisions and duplexes and granny flats, which is going to be a big benefit for investors who want to try to be a bit more active in their investment strategy.
Yeah, I think there's bonuses all around. In particular, so moving forward to 28th of February last Friday, I think generally across the board, there's now more opportunity for higher density, low to mid-rise housing across the state. However, there are also 171 stations and centres that have been handpicked by the New South Wales government, where if a property falls within 800 metres of those sites, there's even higher advantages in terms of more floor to space ratio, more height and stories allowed to be constructed. And at the same time, just more clarity on how much area you need and how much frontage you need, and a standard across the board that everyone can refer to quite easily to understand whether they are or aren't eligible for these benefits.
Yeah, no, it sounds interesting. Are there any other key changes, I guess, or upgrades to the policy?
Yeah, so some of the very key changes are that previously developments such as multi-dwelling housing, otherwise known as a townhouse complex, in most councils is only allowed in 3 zones or higher, whereas now they are allowed in R2 zones as well, so long as you can meet all the area requirements. Similarly, 3 terraces on one lot, otherwise known as a triplex. Similar thing. Previously, a lot of councils would restrict those to the medium density zones, R3 or higher, Whereas now that can also be done in an R2 zone, so long as you have, for example, 18 meters of frontage, 500 square meters of land, and then you can subdivide that into 3 lots,
Wow.
3 6-meter wide lots, which I think is quite advantageous, especially for those who want to build or develop their land, or particularly some who want to just get the approval and then sell the land for someone else to take on the risk
And is
of.
that the usable land, Michael? So, for example, if you have incumbents or sewer piping or something in your 500 square meters of land, does that then get minus or taken away from your 500 square meters?
The example you gave me was a sewer pipe.
Mm.
Not necessarily. Sewer pipes are dealt with differently through Sydney water guidelines and the likes. With those, we just need to engage the right consultant. They're known as a Section 73 consultant.
Yeah.
And they will just give you advice on how to build around the Sydney water pipe or otherwise relocate it, which is the worst case scenario. But if you
Yeah.
can concrete encase it or build around it, then you can still go ahead with your development. But to go back to your question, if there was already an existing easement on the land for drainage, for example, then that might impact the ability to seek an approval. So it's always good to hire a professional to review and check these things before progressing into a project.
I hear a lot of people sometimes they say they buy a block of land and they didn't check these things. You're like, how could you have done that? How
Yeah.
could you have put a block of land and they're like, oh, can't really develop. I had just earlier today talked about a block they bought in Richmond.
Yeah.
Now we know Richmond in Sydney, what that as soon as you say that word, we start thinking about flooding and we start thinking about other issues around that. So, he's got some issues on developing on that land. And part of that is not understanding the full lay of the land per se into what
Yes.
you can and can't do to subdivide and build more housing on that land.
Yeah, exactly. So just continuing on from before, some other benefits were also apartments. So moving on from triplexes and townhouses, you can also do small scale apartments in R2 zones as well, so long as you meet the minimum land requirements.
When
So
you say the word small scale, Michael?
So small scale would be your 2 or 3 story brick, similar to your 2 and 3 story brick walk-ups that you were previously
Yes.
used to, that popped up everywhere in Sydney throughout the 70s and 80s, I'd say.
Yeah, the big red bricks,
However,
yeah.
they'd be subject of the latest standards and design controls, so they'd have to look a lot nicer than
Mm.
the traditional brick walk-ups. But that's a tiered solution where there's an across the board allowance for people in R1 and R2 lands. But for those who are in R3, 4, all within the 800 meters of a center, then you can go from 2 to 4 stories or 4 to 6 stories close you are to the station.
Yes, that's right.
Those centers.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
they had the priority lines, right? They put through priority zones after the metro or along the metro lines as well.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
year.
So
Mm.
it's a very similar approach with these handpicked sites.
Any other ones? Yeah.
Yeah, just lastly, shop top housing. So similar to the apartment controls, there's just higher density allowances for shop top housing to promote apartments above those shop top houses which are just kind of sitting there, not much happening. It's allowing a little bit more density closer to those centres so that more housing becomes available for the public, which is the whole, backbone of this policy change.
Yeah, wow, that's some really exciting changes as well, right? Particularly for people who are either developers who will jump on this straight away,
Yeah.
like you knew what was coming up, but you were very keen to talk to me about it, and
Yeah.
as soon as it got hit in your mailbox after you read it, you sent it to me. So you
Yeah.
can see the real big benefits and opportunities for investors or even homeowners who want to do something with their land and maybe these days with children and the cost of housing. So sometimes that subdivision can help the family member as well.
Correct. Yeah, I think there's benefits all round, not only for property owners, but also to be property purchasers. And I guess it's promoting, medium to higher density living across the state, which is something that we've been needing for a long time, especially with the shortage of housing across New South Wales. So, we're welcoming this change as a very positive change, and we want to communicate it to everyone. And I guess for those who want to actually proceed and progress, hire a registered architect so that you can take your project further and either develop it with a higher yield or sell it for a higher purchase price with the approval.
That's a good segue. That's actually a question I was about to ask you, Michael, for our listeners watching or listening today. What are, so let's say again, 3 of the key things that they should consider before they go and invest or purchase a land for the potential for subdivision? Who are the professionals? We always talk about building a team of professionals before you go out and take action. Who are those people that you would say the investor should consider or the property buyer should consider before looking into anything like this?
Yep. So they should definitely get in touch with a registered architect, such as myself or others. In addition to that, a town planner, an experienced town planner, particularly one who has a lot of experience in low to mid-rise developments, and then also a private certifier in case the development can be delivered through the faster complying development approval pathway instead of the DA pathway.
Mhm.
I guess one of the key points I forgot to mention was that currently these changes all have to be done, majority of these changes have to be done through a council development application, DA. And I think the government's working on providing a faster approval pathway. But at this stage, the wording suggests that these applications have to go through a council. So yeah, you'll definitely need an architect and town planner for each of these developments at this stage.
All right, excellent. Anything else, Mike, you'd like to add for our listeners?
Yeah, for anyone who just wants to do a quick search of their property, if you go to the New South Wales Planning website, there's an interactive map where you can search your property address and instantly find out whether your property sits within one of these selected centres. And if it is, then get in touch with a professional and we can speak to you further about what the opportunities and pros and cons of developing your property are.
No, thanks for that. I'll put that link in the show notes, and I'll actually, if anyone wants to talk to Michael more and understand an opportunity that they may be looking at, I'll also put your details in the show notes so they can get in touch with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Julian.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, and we look forward to getting you back on and keeping talking about these type of opportunities for our investors.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Bye-bye.